Hi, Ryan.
Hello, Rachel.
How are you?
Just sighing already, are you? Because you're getting a little bit misty-eyed that we're getting near the end? Is that it? Or is it because your soul just got taken from you, ripped out of your body, muffled, dull, closer now? Are you disappointed that soul hunters weren't portrayed in that way in this feature film of Babylon 5?
No, I'm content with what we got. I like that it's very different. It's very different.
But to be answering of your question, I am doing ecstatic. I am having a great time right now. I am getting ready for wrapping up the Babylon 5 watch through, and that is aided by movies like this, in which it is just a slice of life, good old time with a throwback sensibility to it. But we are talking about Babylon 5. We're rewatching it, revisiting it, and reviewing it, and we are going through the episodes, and now we have reached a patch of it where we have to stop off before we get to the final episode to do one of the films.
Yes, we do. And today we are stopping off at River of Souls,
which is a particularly yum film. And Yum is the name of the podcast. Why is that, Rachel?
Will you let me do it in my own way without interrupting? I need some kind of signal. He shrugged his shoulder and then gave a thumbs up. So he's going to do whatever the fuck he wants, like usual. You name the podcast Yum, after Star Trek Discovery's pinnacle moment, where actress, in fact, award-winning actress, Oscar award-winning actress, Michelle Yeoh asks an individual who is being paid to perform, basically, hey, you want to go kill that guy? The antagonist, so the murder is fine. And Commander 90's response is yum. Is that satisfactory?
Oh, yeah, sure. I was just waiting for you to throw it back to me while you were giving a riveting recap of the Yum. I was just buying some stuff from eBay. I was looking if Martin Sheen had any autographs of himself as the Soul Hunter. And did you delight in the fact that this piece of Babylon 5 had a character say yum? We actually had someone say yum in the episode.
That's the entire reason why you picked him for the spotlight.
No, that's not the reason, but boy, I will get into the reason. But River of Souls, the feature film starring Martin Sheen, Ian McShane, Tracy Scoggins, Jeff Conaway, and Jerry Doyle, as well as a myriad of other lovely faces, graced the screen, and according to the VHS tape.
Oh, you didn't want to do your own research and find the DVD version?
Could not find a DVD version. I looked heads and tails, but nowhere online was it that easily available. There's the Blu-ray site where it gives you the IMDb description. So I thought we would stick with the riveting. This is the original marketing. This was JMS at his prime. This is JMS when he was still writing for the series, not JMS afterwards. And this is what it has to say. Fear the soul stealers. Ooh, I was going to say eaters there because it would have been yum if they were eating the souls, but they're just stealing the souls, Rachel. The galaxy is home to many exotic and strange life forms, but none more bizarre than the soul hunters. Mysterious beings that rove the galaxy, capturing the souls of the dying in special globes, saving them from the oblivion of death. Every race has a dirty secret, and the soul hunters are no exception. The tortured, screaming souls of 1 billion beings wrongfully imprisoned at the moment of transcendence for 10,000 years. Now, that terrible legacy has been stolen, and the soul hunters have tracked it down to the galaxy's biggest free port, the giant Babylon 5 station. As a billion enraged souls erupt to possess the living, one question is on everyone's lips. What price would the dead pay to live again? A little bit of a deceiving description because they're not there to take over people. They're there to kill everyone.
Yeah. And also, I didn't twig, but the moment of transcendence thing is a spoiler.
Of course it is. They have to spoil things for you. That it's honorable that it didn't say Martin Sheen was in it.
TNT presents a world premiere movie event. Fire! Featuring Martin Sheen as Soul Hunter. River of Souls. Premieres Sunday night at 8, only on TNT.
We are Yum Yum because of that amazing moment as Rachel regaled us all with, and we take a moment to look at a person in an episode and say, could they be the ones to give us Yum Yum? And we don't even need to because the sleazy lawyer literally says Yum in this episode.
Mr. Riley?
Yeah, in reply to Lockley eating some weird alien food. She's
about to have breakfast.
She's about to just tuck on in, and he is handing her all of this bullshit.
She gets to eat in this episode. Like, she gets to eat breakfast, she gets to eat dinner.
And we, the Lockheads, that's the name of the Lockley fans and the Babylon 5 community. I'm a proud Lockhead. We also eat very well when it comes to the amount of material we get of Captain Elizabeth Lockley. And let's just rip into this. Let's talk about our histories and our overall thoughts on this. Now, we have both watched The River of Souls before, but it was where we kind of drifted off of trying to watch the movies, and we just watched the show, and then we said we'll come back to the movies, and we never really came back to the movies. But The River of Souls and Third Space were ones that we watched back to back one night, and I was looking forward to it because it's a Soul Hunter movie.
Yeah.
It has some interesting actors. But to be 100% honest, outside of the oddity that is it's a Soul Hunter movie with Martin Sheen and Ian McShane, I did not remember too much about it outside of the love bat thing. I remembered
the love bat, and I remembered Franklin's here, but he's doing a weird accent.
Oh, yeah, Franklin. Thank you for mentioning it. Franklin is in the movie. It's Richard Biggs, but not Franklin really. But it is Richard Biggs, and he got paid to do a random scene that could have been anyone. But they said it was Franklin for reasons, okay?
Yep.
So you can't complain. Shut the fuck up, nerds. But River of Souls is one that I was desperately wanting to get to with the podcast because it just has such a rich crop for us. I mean, just the whole entire thing's existence is just so much our thing. Out of all of the movies, this is the one I've been looking forward to the most, whether it is for guilty pleasure reasons, genuine conversation, or just to go back down memory lane and refresh a few things. But for yourself, The River of Souls, how has this one landed in the past, and were you excited to come back to it, and how do you feel about it now?
I forgot that I'd actually watched it. Then I was just like, no, we definitely did this one. And then watching it, I was just like, oh yeah, this is comfortable. That's what I went with. Like, it feels like a extension of the show very organically. And on previous watches, wait, I think it was just one, right? I've only watched it once.
Just the once we've watched this.
And on the previous one, I remember being more annoyed with the pacing of it and being like, get to the point. But on this watch, being familiar with it, I was much more patient with it.
After what we had just sat through with Lanier, this was a palate cleanser.
Yes.
I was just so relieved. And I know that when we watched it previously, we didn't watch it in this order. I think we just haphazardly threw things in just because we've seen the show a million times.
Yeah.
But my, after everything that happened with Linnea, this was just comfortable, as said. This was just roomy. It was so just friendly and silly, and I had a big grin on my face. I was so happy while watching this. And yes, there's pacing problems. Yes, this does not rise above the curse that is the Babylon 5 TV movies, which is none of them need to exist. None of them need to be movies. None of them are very good. Like, none of them are good. They're all fine, maybe good in a, hey, that's good in the standard of what this is, but...
seeing more of Lockley. I like that we get to see her standing on her own and doing her job and doing it much better than Sheridan, to be honest.
And Zach Allen getting to be the chief as well again.
We've established that Zach is better.
But seeing them two bounce off of each other.
Yeah, better at being chief of security than Garibaldi ever was.
What I mean by all of that is this is a Babylon 5 movie, but I think I had the most fun with this one, and perhaps it's because we've been dragging along at the last stretch of the show with moments of farewell, while this is a moment of just adventure. This is a moment of just having a wacky little story. It doesn't have to have this looming sense of finality. No. It's almost like you're watching an alternative universe version of the show where this was our crew all along, where you had Corwin much more up front, you had Lockley, you had Zach, and
feels
on
a
we
bit
go.
Like, you know, if instead of in Objects at Rest, we carry on with Sheridan after he salutes Lockley, if it switches to Lockley.
Yeah, she just
stays
puts
with
her arm
her,
down.
and this is just like a solid couple of episodes into the next season.
And it's a Soul Hunter film. That's the pitch of it. That's what we all remember. That's what we all know. It's in the title, Souls. And the Soul Hunter was the second episode, proper. It was the first monster that we had to go up against, the first strange, weirdo alien. And we had such a deep conversation about that episode that was not particularly the greatest, but the concept of the Soul Hunters, as well as the performance of William Morgan Shepherd, solidified them as just what Babylon 5 is all about. They're these ghoulish things, but they bring about an existential and philosophical musing every time you think of them. Are they good? Are they bad? What do you do about them? Are they right? Are they wrong? And so on and so on and so on. And out of all of the monsters or aliens or different weird little groups of Babylon 5, do you think it was wise to make a follow-up to the Soul Hunters when there is so many other things in this universe that you could do a bigger story about?
I think it is a good choice for a TV movie. I think there's a good amount of lore that was established, and they add a lot of new things. That exposition is heavy in those scenes where it appears, but it's still interesting. And, like, I feel like it's a good choice as well, because the Soul Hunters are very much separated from the Shadows and the Vorlons. And that makes it easier to be self-contained. Whereas a lot of the other things that they could return to have direct or indirect link to those two species and their legacy.
And they don't need to be a galactic-wide event like the third Space Aliens were. Where it's like, oh no, if they get out, everything's bad. The Soul Hunters, they're a nuisance. They are made as a threat. And how do you feel about this movie's portrayal and handling of them, and overall maybe extension of the concept of the Soul Hunters? Because this is not the same as the episode Soul Hunter.
No, but it is very much an exploration of those ideas that were brought up in Soul Hunter. So it is a thematic sequel as well. And I really appreciate that tact that they've taken with this episode and how they expand it out in an interesting way, because it, like, Soul Hunter the episode kind of dealt directly with what it was like for everybody on the station to realize that these things exist.
And that there was a debate about whether or not we should get rid of them.
Yeah. And obviously, Delenn having a particular point of view and ending up with the orbs.
She's religious. She has a view on things that are fundamentally opposed to everything the Soul Hunters believe in and stand for and act upon.
Yeah. And I like the way that question is still brought up, of, like, do souls exist? And then Garibaldi just shoots it down.
Mm-hmm.
And Locklear is just like, well, that's not the problem that we have to deal with. We have to deal with the fact that this item, whether it contains souls or not, has been stolen and should be returned. Very practical and, like, pragmatic, which is what we expect from Locklear. She deals with the problem that's in front of her. So in Soul Hunter, we see the perspective of our people on the station, even though they're barely, like, our people when you're watching it the first time. But you see their connections and explorations and expectations and, you know, thoughts, musings, all of those things on the idea of the soul. Garibaldi shuts that down.
Franklin shuts it down in the Soul Hunter episode. Since he's not here, Garibaldi's here to shut it down in the movie, because he didn't really have much of an opinion on it in the episode. I don't even recall if he was in that episode, but not as viscerally.
But instead, it gets a soul hunter to reflect on his own species and what being a soul hunter means and the impact that has on people and communities, because they are very, very isolated.
Hey, you want to tell me this thing of yours recorded the thoughts of 1 billion people? Hey, that's fine. I'm with you. It's a big job, but it's possible. Hell, in the last 100 years, we've been able to map brain patterns, program memories, and even record thought. But don't start with me about this soul business.
It doesn't matter what you believe, Michael. Whatever it is, whatever's inside was stolen from these people, and it should be returned.
Why? Look, let's assume you're telling the truth. Wisdom. Who says these guys get custody of somebody's soul?
I am a bit mixed, because this movie, I should say, makes them more human. They give them more of a recognizable trait, and not only just physically do they look more recognizable, they've de-emphasized the ghoulishness for the sake of Martin Sheen's face being visible, but they do it to the other ones as well. And they de-emphasize certain aspects of their just creepiness. They're not as creepy or as off-putting as they were in that original episode. And it wasn't just Morgan Shepard's Soul Hunter. The other one was as well. They were just so much more eerie. But for the sake of this story, you can't have them be the X-Files monster that they once were. So you have to give them some more nuances and layers. And although that sounds ideal, I kind of liked them as this alien, unknown, existential threat, that the more we got to know about them, they were just people who were using their inherent gifts and senses and technology to enact supremacy, because they don't just take any souls, they take the best ones and they have this ownership over them. And in this movie, they make them far more bureaucratic in a way, and far more of people clouded by plain old hubris, and it has less of that arrogance to the point of sickening. And although you could say that is still there, obviously, but I'm a bit mixed on it, because what they do here is very well done. They give them a bigger sense of a culture. They give them a more of a religious angle with the whole idea of faith is blinding as well as guiding. Martin Sheen does an excellent job as our lead soul hunter, but I miss them having close-up shots of the eyes and sensing when death is coming, and the heartbeat, and just all of the just oozing sickness that the soul hunters brought about with them. While in this movie, it just feels as if they're another alien. Just another one, just some other alien. They take away the mystique.
They make them friendly.
They do. They make them someone that you can talk to. While the episode, they weren't. They were people you could talk to, but they weren't really people you would talk to.
No, it's like, oh, you want to talk to me?
It's weird to see
I have
Lockley
no
talk to them.
reason to say no. But Lockley's just like, hey, you want some dinner?
I'm eating food and drinking from a crazy straw. It's Lockley's time now. She says it up front. Sheridan's been gone, Garibaldi is gone, and all of the hijinks that followed them has no longer been on the station. Things have been calm. Things have been operating in the way she's been hoping for them to do the entire time. And that's a nice piece of business about how her character did not get the chance to thrive as her own thing because she was on the bottom of priorities when it came to people, because she was new. We're here to say goodbye to our friends we've spent time with. And now it's Lockley's turn. Lockley, none of those characters are in your way. Garibaldi's here. That means the troubles of yesteryear are here, but he does not get in the way of her being the lead. Although they still credit Jerry Doyle before her, which is annoying, she is in charge. This is her story. This is her movie. And what do you think about Lockley's captaincy? What do you think about how this movie handles her character, but also the vibe of her leadership?
I really enjoy it. She has a very lived-in sensibility to her as a character now, and it's great to see her just be herself. She's not shackled by, butting heads with Garibaldi or being Sheridan's ex-wife. She just gets to be the competent commander that we have seen her to be.
She's funny as well. She's kooky and she's quirky, but not in such an aggravating way. I love seeing her interact with the station in a far more personal way than other characters did. We talked about it in season 5, but how Tracy Scoggins portrays the character when Lockley is having to give orders or work with her peers and subordinates, like with Corwin or Zach. There's just a certain flavor to it that feels far more, I don't know, there's just something cozy about it, and yet there's still the sense of it's a military structure, and she's the one that calls the shots, and she's the one that calls it when she needs to call it, and no one is going to defy her orders, but she's willing to listen. She's willing to play ball, and she's willing to save face for people. And I also just, I adore this type of stuff, of the little details of how she interacts with the station. she's shopping, she's buying stuff, she's interacting with the merchants, she eats the local food that no one else is willing to eat. She reminds me of what they promised us number one in Star Trek would be when she appeared in Strange New Worlds and she was doing paperwork while eating a big fat burger, and then that never has recurred again with her character. And it was like, oh, I loved that aspect of number one. Well, with Lockley, this is something that they've been doing in the 5th season, and now here it is again, and it's her time to shine. And although we have no plans on watching Crusade, she does appear in Crusade, and we get to see more of this Rachel. We actually get to see where she eats lunch, where she buys her lunch and then she finds a random little shithole to hide in and eat her lunch privately. It's just neat. I just like all of these little shadings of a character that, let's be honest, no one wanted. No one wanted Lockley. Lockley's not supposed to exist. Like, Lockley's the Ivanova replacement character. But since she is here, they're going to follow through and keep having her in Babylon 5, and that means you have to be respectful as a writer. You have to be respectful of her existence. This isn't a Warren Keffer situation. And this is definitely better than Ezri Dax in Deep Space Nine, where Ezri Dax, even if the writers did care, they didn't do much with her. And then once Deep Space Nine's over, Ezri doesn't exist anymore. While Babylon 5 Season 5 is over, basically, but we got the movies, and we even got the most recent movie where there's more Lockley time. And what do you feel was moments of her character that really rung out loudly in this movie? Like, what were the things that JMS and Tracy Scoggins were bringing to Lockley that you just really vibed with?
I really like how she was just like on that train of thought when Corwin was trying to tell her that Garibaldi had rocked up, and like she keeps on pausing, and he's like, and she just keeps on going, and then she's just like, oh, but you came for a reason. What was it?
Very cute, and she's
very
just
JMS.
Oh yeah, the classic. Nothing can go wrong. Something's going to go wrong.
Yeah, I enjoy that, and the way that scene came back when the vase that she bought broke.
Garibaldi's a bad luck charm.
Garibaldi's leaving.
Oh, when Garibaldi reveals that when it's revealed that the doctor that Garibaldi was meeting with is the reason that the Soul Hunter is here, and she just gives him this side eye, like, why is it always you? Yep. Why is it always your fault that things go badly?
How just like she tells it, like she just says it up front.
And even though she's grilling Garibaldi's ass, I like the back and forth of, well, you can call me Michael. Okay, Michael. And then at the end, she calls him Garibaldi again. And he's like, I thought you were going to call me Michael. Oh, not anymore. I like the moment of pause. In all of this JMS with the movies can be a little bit too inconsistent with tone. Can go one way or the other too much. But I thought the River of Souls had the perfect balance, and this is demonstrated with how Lockley interacts with Garibaldi. 90% of it is quippy and jokey and fun, but the other bits are plot-driven and just character-driven, but you get that little drop-in of, you still sober? Yeah. As a judge, and then she's glad to hear that. Yes, it may be a piece of writing to touch base that his storyline with his relapse has now really wrapped up, but I like that as just a thing to say, look, they may bust each other's balls, but they care underneath it all.
And she wants to make sure that he's sober, like, and she's direct about it. It's just like pleasantries over, bam. I want an answer.
I did not realize how much I needed Garibaldi in one of these movies, because he's in none of the movies other than The Gathering and this until now, right? Like, he wasn't in Third Space, he wasn't in the beginning. Here he is, he turns up, he has a goatee because he's a JMS character now. And all JMS characters eventually have to have goatees.
Yes.
Franklin gets one in Crusade. But it's not the greatest goatee either for Franklin, sadly. But I miss Garibaldi in these movies. He's such an interesting presence.
Yeah.
And he's a side character in this film.
Yeah, I like the way that he plays off our other characters. He doesn't steal the show. It's not like, oh, thank God they brought a main cast member back, damn it. Otherwise this would have just fallen flat. It's like, no, he's there because he brings out interesting things in the characters whose story this is.
And we get to have a glimpse of what he is like outside of the job we knew him for all of this time. And not just in the main way of, oh, he's no longer security chief. We've gotten used to that. But he's now a free agent. We actually get to see what Garibaldi is like after he's driven off into the sunset and married and has a company. And he is just a little maverick on the station. He knows that Lockley hates his presence because it brings bad luck, but he's going to keep coming anyway because it's really funny.
Well, have a good trip back, Michael. I guess I will see you when I see you.
Which will be in about a month. I've got some business in the area, so I figured I'd just swing by and take a few days off, check out the old digs. Yeah, it'll be great just to hang out again. It'll be like the old days. I'll see you.
Shoot me. Shoot me now.
I usually grill Garibaldi for owning up to his authority, but I agreed with every single fucking thing he said and did in this movie when it came to being a boss. Yeah. He was right. He
worked it. He got exactly what he wanted, and it's great because it's an extension of the skills that we saw him develop when he was being a private investigator.
And he does that thing that I really appreciate in a supernatural, kooky, bizarre sci-fi horror story. The person that he's talking to is clearly insane, and Garibaldi recognizes that and plays it off calm. Yeah. He recognizes, oh, you've lost it, huh? Well, you're gonna lose your funding here. Oh, like he doesn't overplay his hand, and he's not ignorant to the facts either.
No.
And seeing him bust Ian McShane's balls in the in the cafeteria area in the Zocalo area, because all he's asking for nothing but reasonable things. He's like, okay, I truly thank you, JMS. Garibaldi did this one thing where he said, oh, you have some important research right now. I don't want to rush you with that because I understand that could be dangerous, of course. So how about we make a
I'm not asking for that. I'm not asking you to rush or to prove anything. I just want to know how my money has been spent up until this point,
Give me your information, your research, your data.
I want your notes. For the last
3 years. Give me your notes. Let's make a compromise. I don't want to rush you into a bizarre storyline. How about we just do this? And of course you know it's not going to work that way because we're in a story, but so often we don't get characters act like that. Like Garibaldi in another version of the script would have been like, no, you got to make sure to give me whatever this mysterious thing is by tomorrow. No, he just wants the notes, and Ian McShane unreasonably doesn't want to give them to him. And here's the question. Why? Why does Ian McShane's character, Dr. Bryce, whatever his name is...
Yeah, because it doesn't see... At first I thought, oh, it's because he doesn't have them. Because he hasn't actually written anything down, but then he's burnt it and he's making notes. So it's like...
And that's after this cafeteria scene.
Yeah. It's just like they did exist.
It's probably because he's been pissing about for 3 years. I wish that the episode gave us a little bit more of
an answer.
Weight for that. Of, is he just someone who now has stumbled across something important, but for the last 3 years he's been pissing in the wind doing nothing?
Yeah, it's like, how did he find that cavern, right? He found that world, he found that cavern, they had a reason for why they were going after that one, and that it was a strenuous thing. So it's just a little bit of a record scratch kind of thing for us. I think it doesn't matter that much, but it's just like what, why you been dumb? Well,
we open up
I want
the
some
movie.
explanation on why you're being dumb.
Because he isn't possessed fully at that time. And
No.
the movie opens up with the suggestion of he is someone who does this type of dangerous shit all of the time. So if anything, he would have notes that would make it sound like he's doing important shit. Because there's that amazing exchange between him and Klaus, whatever, the German guy. And his assistant says, "I won't die for your whispers." I love that's just such classic JMS shit, and that is both an amusing line, but also just a really disturbing line. That this man is here in this unknown archaeological wonderland, and they hear these mysterious otherworldly whispers. This particular person says, "No, I'm leaving because this is clearly bad." And Ian McShane's character is going to stay because it's so important to the mission statement. And it's not just that there's a ship outside, because they don't even really understand the level
some
of
security has gone off, and that they're hoping that if they don't take anything,
they'll be okay.
Yeah, they won't be shut down.
And tough shit, they get put in orbs, and they're going to be stuck there for ages too, unless Delenn frees them. But Ian McShane, great actor, legendary actor, he's one of the selling points of this. He was not the biggest name at the time. This is before Deadwood, which is really his pinnacle of his career. It's what I know him for, and I haven't even watched that much of Deadwood. I know Ian McShane for being great supporting roles in things here and there. He's in the John Wick movie franchise, and he's wonderful. He's a great screen presence, has a magnificent voice. He's got a face that feels like it has been in the desert for 1,000,000 years. Like, he is such a character actor, man. And I'm so bored with him in this movie.
He is so lazy.
He's a poorly written character. He's just got nothing to him. Like, there's no oomph factor.
Flat.
Other than to remark, "Hey, it's that actor." Can you say anything about the character?
Nah. I think we kind of covered it.
He is the guy that brings the problem. That's all he is. And we don't even get the catharsis or satisfaction of seeing him slowly get possessed over time, and then at the end wake up from the possession and realize his wrongdoing. They just sort him out off screen. Fuck it. Off screen.
Yeah, and it is pretty quick turnaround from when he first has a conversation with one of the souls to him being completely lost.
That was a great scene too. He is in great moments. That moment of him fucking around with the orb and talking to one of the souls outside of it, and it is played by Wayne Alexander, and you can tell he does a magnificent job, and it's legitimately upsetting. That's an upsetting scene, and I thought the way that Janet Greek, who directed this, how it was portrayed visually was really well done, and I kind of wish we got to see more moments of Ian McShane's character having those type of horrific interactions. Or how about this, Rachel? We see Lockley interact with one of the sane group of souls. Why don't we get to see him have his fucked up bizarro Event Horizon version where he's with the mad souls, where he's with the demented sick ones that are living in the storm clouds? Why don't we get that? That would be cool.
That would be cool.
But Ian McShane just holds an orb and whispers to it. Do you know the trivia fact about Ian McShane?
Wasn't he really shit to work with?
Yes. Not only that, he is embarrassed by this project. He said in a magazine or an interview years later that if he could have gotten out of it, he would have. He was embarrassed to see the great Martin Sheen with a jewel in his head. He hated the script, specifically the exposition. He had to do a lot of technical talk, and so to amuse himself, apparently, Ian McShane would just make up his own lines because he thought these were beneath him, and people like Jerry Doyle and the producers and the director were very mad at Ian McShane for doing this, and he treats it as like, oh, fuck him, who cares? It was just River of Souls, I don't give a fuck. And that's amusing because he is one of the greatest actors of all time, Ian McShane. He's a legitimately talented performer, but he could be like Martin Sheen and give a fuck. You know, like Martin Sheen is clearly passionate about this role that would easily be beneath him. This role is clearly beneath Martin Sheen's talents, but he brings his whole heart and soul into this. Ian McShane, you can tell he doesn't want to be there. And does that subtract or weirdly add to things? Because there are moments where it adds to my enjoyment knowing that Ian McShane was just a complete prick while making this.
It just makes me annoyed because it's just like, fuck it, somebody else could have at least tried. And you're actively trying to sabotage this project? And it's just like I'm glad that his scenes are so limited.
Martin Sheen is their opposite of him. And not in scenes but in terms of professionalism. Martin Sheen is an A-grade actor. He's a massive name. He's had a family of massive names with Charlie Sheen and Emilio Estevez, and it goes on and on. He is in Apocalypse Now. He was in West Wing shortly after this. Martin Sheen is not to be trifled with, and he is a talent in science fiction as well. He's done a few science fiction movies. This is his first time ever playing an alien, which is neat. And he would go on to be in the Mass Effect games as one of the major antagonists of that series. He is spectacular. I like Martin Sheen's portrayal of the nice soul hunter. He is still weird. He has so many weird line deliveries and just so many just odd expressions on his face, but he wears the makeup and the rags real well. You can tell that he wants to be there.
Yeah, you really can, and it's lived in. It's lived in because he's so present.
He was originally supposed to be the archaeologist, but he read the script and said, can I be the soul hunter, because that seems like a lot more fun. And God bless him, because I also would want to be the soul hunter.
Yeah, it's way, way more interesting.
It's such a, I guess, tragedy is the word, or shame, because you can see that he loves the creepy weirdo shit of the soul hunter
and they don't
so much, and we don't get enough of it because
it.
Inherently his character's not supposed to be that. He's supposed to flex that.
Yeah.
But he's supposed to be inherently good.
Yes.
And there's just I want to see Martin Sheen just freak it up a little bit more, just play like a gross creature
more. You want to
more.
watch that freak flag fly.
Something was stolen from us. Taken from us. Taken here.
How do you know whatever you lost was brought here?
The one who stole from us, the one who brought it here, had others with him. They told us.
There's a plot with the soul hunters. Ian McShane has stolen a big orb that, as the description said, has 1 billion souls in it. But could you break it down for us a bit more? And what do you think about this as the TV movie plot for a soul hunter escapade?
Like, it's interesting because it has a little bit of that sequelitis of it's bigger and there's more, so it's higher stakes. And it's just like, okay. Whatever.
Not a fan then.
No, like, it's fine. I'm like, it's a big glowy orb. We've had plenty of them in Babylon 5. And it's It's just, I think I don't enjoy it much because of the pacing. Because it is just like, no, okay. Okay, you're telling me things. Don't give a shit. Don't give a shit. Okay, so they were about to be like Vorlons. Great.
Do you think it's the pacing that's a major holding back of
I think the pacing
engagement?
is a problem with it. I also think that it's just not as interesting because I never give a shit about the souls that are trapped. Like, I would like it a lot more if it managed to make me care about the souls that lost their minds. Like, the fact that they'll never be the same, that they were destroyed in many ways by this process and being jailed. Or, like, it's not tangible enough.
It teases a more fascinating take on this. In Third Space, it was Babylon 5 does Lovecraftian. This briefly, just for one scene, touches what if Babylon 5 did gothic horror?
Yeah.
What if Babylon 5 did a ghost story? Because that moment of Zach Allen walking down the hallway and there's this visage of a woman all in black crying about how her family has been separated from her.
Veiled, where her children.
And then it goes through him.
Creepy. It's a really solid scene.
And I wish that they used the souls leaking out of the orb and trying to get tangible existence for more moments like that, more encounters, more of that connection you're sorely lacking that you're talking about, because I also don't care for them. The most you get is exposition. But scenes like that is far more evocative than Dr. Franklin coming in and telling us that there's this sci-fi concept of them evolving to a higher plane only to have been captured by and imprisoned for no real reason other than hubris. That is good framework, but you need more, not only just thematic stuff, but emotional stuff on it. And to me, the River of Souls, the Soul Hunter story, is serviceable because what it does pad it out with, and this is the thing, pads it out with all of the fun Lockley, Corwin, Garibaldi, Hollow Brothel, all of that stuff is thoroughly entertaining to me. I think it's funny. I think it's heartwarming. I think it's goofy. I think it's sleazy. Like, all of that stuff exists, but then you have this Soul Hunter storyline, and it's the thing I care about the least in this movie.
Yeah, it's frustrating that the actual story lacks depth.
But when you say what it's about, it sounds compelling.
Yes.
And that's pretty much most of the movies, is when you say what the idea is, oh, that sounds compelling. And in this one's favor, it has a good look to it. The direction is done. The performances are, for the most part, really great. I actually thought the pacing was handled relatively well, but
it's because it just doesn't have enough substance at different points to sustain the pacing.
And when it does get to the commentary, when it does get to the meat of the matter, it does it in the most fly-by way, where Martin Sheen's character will now suddenly say, could this be our arrogance that did this? It feels very high school writerly.
It's
in
like
those.
this, now he's at the end point.
Now this is the part where we address the themes and the metaphors and the messaging of the story. And it feels just so trite when it does it. And it's not even that we're against the point being made, like Soul Hunter's hubris and arrogance leading to such a colossal thing that they are so above thinking that they could commit a wrongdoing, that they will perpetuate their wrongdoings. Good. That's good.
Yeah.
Good
that
point.
tracks.
Good point, but the way it's expressed in this is not even bad. It's just boilerplates. And that's what the movies keep coming up against is they're boilerplates.
Yeah, which is part of what makes them feel so much like TV movies.
And they feel like two separate episodes in this case. It's not a double-parter that's maybe a little too long. It's not just one episode. It's two separate episodes jammed together for some reason. Oh, the reason is we need to get it to 90 minutes. We have Lockley having to deal with a sleazy lawyer and a hollow brothel, and we also have this gargantuan soul hunter plot about a whole race of people's souls being encased in an orb, and Garibaldi's here too.
See, to me it felt like, yeah, that's a A-B structure that I can see an episode having of strange man comes to the station and more personal drama and the two collide.
Oh, I agree. It should be an A-B sense.
But to me, it doesn't feel like two episodes smashed together. It feels like one episode stretched.
For I guess for myself, it's because I don't find it satisfying the way that they weave the B plot into the A plot.
No, it's
There's
just
stretches
contrived.
where it just doesn't exist. There's stretches where it exists too much and the other one doesn't exist. And then when it does
not balanced.
when it does commingle, it does it in a fashion that I just find to be exhausting. It's just, we're going to do it like this. Okay.
And I think it also suffers from the fact that it's such an obvious conclusion.
Oh, yeah. Just not only dealing with the hollow brothel is obvious, but and we can forgive that because it's played as a comedic plot, but the fact that Martin Sheen's character is going to die by sacrificing himself the moment you meet him, the moment you see him, there's never a doubt that.
And everything that he says after that is just like, oh, you're so dead.
We just look at our. Dead. That's the problem. Is it's so paint by numbers that you're looking at your watch and that pacing feels worse than it actually is because we know the steps it's going to take to get to where it's going.
We're just waiting for it to happen.
And how do you make the journey more fascinating than it actually is? I don't know, have a wacky side thing about Lockley having to contend with a goofy character and another goofy character. No, let's have sexy holograms. Is there much else you want to say about the soul hunter aspect of this, or do you want to just talk about the hollow brothel?
Yeah.
Is it good? Is it a good story? Is it good to have this?
It raises questions. I don't need it. I don't really want it. It feels like a less interesting version that Deep Space Nine did.
Is it less interesting or is it better? Because the Deep Space Nine one I feel is grosser than this because one of our main characters is actively engaged in trying to get an image of one of the other main characters. Well, this is side characters who suck. Like they say they suck. And we're not supposed to think they're good.
No, but I guess it's because it sticks in my mind more than this does. I'm like, oh yeah, that does happen. Because we watched the intro and it has clips of
the brothel.
And interviews with people, including Tracy. And she refers to it as her hollow ho outfit. And I'm like, that alone is more entertaining than the hollow ho story.
I guess it's weird to say I kind of enjoyed it because it did.
Is it just because it's a sexy lady?
No, because it's funny that there's a lawyer coming in and he's hamming it up and showing up the scenery and he's doing this, and Lockley and Zach lament the fact that they can fight against intergalactic aliens but they can't fight against lawyers easily. And I kind of appreciate the amount of effort that this episode went to with there being a hollow brothel and having to take it down and they can't, and there's all of this red tape that's allowing it to exist, and
He's found every single loophole that he can exploit. And a lawyer who's gonna back him up.
This has got to be a joke.
I don't see anything funny in this, Captain. Between statutory and punitive damages, your illegal conduct toward my client could result in fines amounting to several million credits. And while some of that amount might be covered by whatever insurance you hold, you would be liable for the rest under standard Earth Force indemnification clauses. See you in court, Captain. Ooh, yum. Enjoy your breakfast.
I do hate that Lockley / Tracy Scoggins is thrown into like a sexy outfit, and whenever anyone talks about Lockley, heck, even Tracy Scoggins talks about this in that little interview we watched. It's one of the first things that comes up about her character is that, hey, look, it's her in a sexy little get-up, and sci-fi nerds are perverts, and sci-fi writers are perverts, and Star Trek does this all of the time, and Babylon 5 has been horny throughout the series, but this is the closest I feel it comes to just fucking, I don't even know what to say, like, it is the most scampy, like, the most like horny, egregious, like they are being scamps behind the scene because they know that Tracy Scoggins is a sexy lady, so let's throw her in a corset to show off her titties and her legs. And she has been known for, in her career outside of Babylon 5, as the sex pot. I've actually had conversations with some of our guests and with some people online that they actually find it a bit distracting to see Tracy Scoggins as Lockley because they're so used to her being the femme fatale. They're used to her being the sexy lady. They're used to her being something else that Lockley isn't. And so to see Babylon 5 play to that crowd is kind of sad because I like Lockley and I like how she reacts to this. She finds it very gross but funny at the same time. She's amused by it, but also she makes her feelings known by blowing the place up with a grenade.
Yeah.
It exists. I mean, did you find that it went over the line?
No, not really. It's just like, it's here because it's here. And it exists, and then it moves on. I'm like, whatever.
Would they do this to Ivanova?
No.
You sure?
Pretty sure.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure too, yet I have no concrete evidence to back that up. I just have a gut feeling that they would not write this for Ivanova either. But for Lockley, sure. Come on, we could have a bit of fun with it. She's so uptight. I don't know.
They just don't. I just don't see them doing it with Ivanova because I don't feel like they're interested in exploring that side of her personhood.
I guess, and they've commented on that in previous episodes. It's like, hey, you've walked in here when I'm in my pajamas. I could have been in anything. Watch out, John. And that is the River of Souls. That's all we have to say. You don't want to
say anything else about the bat?
The love bat exists. It's a strange scene with an amazing payoff.
Callback, the callback is great. I don't think we had acknowledged that her reprogramming it. Very fun.
The love bat being a thing Corwin gives her where you hit yourself with it and it gives you platitudes of love, and she reprograms it to be insults to give to this lawyer.
You don't have to hit yourself. He just demonstrates on himself because he's respectful of her space.
Oh, of course, but
he won't hit her with it.
Corwin phrases it like you need to hit yourself with it.
Yeah.
Well, he does because he's a freak. He flagellates himself. Great addition to the character.
Yep.
Love the love bat. It's so just no one else would put that in there. JMS sweating to fill in the screen time and also have Corwin be involved gives us shit like this.
Yeah.
This is the gold of the movies.
They've still got a baseball bat from when Sheridan
Sure, that's it.
went to the stadium.
That's still there, of course. The
Let's-
baseball diamond still in
Yeah.
the center of B5. I think it's time.
It is time. I am ready. Spotlight. This section of the show is when we shine a light on a particular performer that appears in the given thing.
Movie in this case.
In this case.
Actor or actress, big or small, minor, recurring, or one-off. We go over who they are, their performance, any interesting pieces of trivia.
He came too close to the sun, saying yum. And Ryan was like, he's the guy.
It's too obvious to do Martin Sheen. It's too obvious to do Ian McShane.
Painkin
Yes.
is going to be it.
Stuart, how is it pronounced? Pankin? He is a slippery attorney at law, James Riley. And when they set him up, it's because the Hollow Brothel owner gets a taste of Zach Allen's justice, and he's like, well, I will make them pay. He phones up and they're like, hey, get ready for a new threat of the story, this Riley guy. And then he comes in, and you know before he even talks that he's a comedy character, because the way, I don't know what to say about this actor. They not only just hire obviously a schlubby looking guy, like he's a big guy, they give him a suit that doesn't fit, but to highlight that he's like a big fat dumb guy, like that's the thing that they're doing. It's a classic comedy thing. I'm not going to get angry about it, but what I'm angry about is they give him this sleaze, like this gooey hairdo where they comb it to the front where he looks like a fucking Roman emperor more than a person, and I hated every single moment of it. Like, why do they have to comb his hair like he's a piece of shit like that? It's not like it's a Saul Goodman thing.
I just was like, that's lazy. That makes sense.
You didn't even need him to speak. The hair did the talking for him. Now, I'm being hard here. Loved the performance.
Yeah, it was great. He did exactly what he needed to do, and he did it well.
Did you have any favorite bits?
I think the first scene is my favorite, with him just being like, ha ha, fuck you, have a nice day.
I like the second time he did that, when he walked into her office and he's eating a bunch of shit. And then he's like, I'm out of here. And she gets really annoyed and threatens having him get injured if he ever comes back in there again. He just keeps coming in and eating stuff.
Yeah.
I like that detail of it all. There was a moment where I was worried that he was going to die, because I thought for a split second he was going to be the customer.
Oh, yeah, because he's just there. Yeah.
But it's a different actor. That's a different character. The customer that sees the two souls, I thought it was going to be him. Like, he uses the Hollow Brothel too because he's a pervert.
I need to acknowledge this now. Need to acknowledge this. You know that owner doesn't clean those suits.
Of course not. Hence they zap you. Yes, this actor gives a Babylon 5, a Babylon 5 performance. Plays it at the back row. It's very theatrical, very slapstick and sticky. It's a magnificent thing to behold. That in this movie, you get Ian McShane playing it as serious as he can, even though he doesn't care. You get Martin Sheen playing it as genuinely as one can, and then you get this person. This person coming in, this person who says, I am going to play it like a 1930s Laurel and Hardy comedy bit. And he does. He really does. And tell us a bit about this performer. Tell us a bit about this actor. What has he been in? Is there any interesting pieces of trivia that you have accumulated?
I have a couple of things of note that he appeared in. If you would like to hear some of them.
Of course.
Though some of them I believe that you will want to discuss.
Well, tell us anyway, Rachel.
there's one that I left off my list because I was like, I'll leave that for Ryan. He was the best friend in Fatal Attraction.
Yes, he was Michael Douglas's schlubby friend.
He has studied fencing and juggling.
Oh, okay.
He was a judge in Boston Legal.
He was. He was in an episode that had an interesting A-B plot, where the A plot was Alan was having to help Jerry get out of being accused of perjury, and the other plot was Julie having to find the remains of Michael J. Fox's character who had died, and his organs were given to like a spook house, and he was a judge in that episode, so that was fun.
He was in an episode of As Told by Ginger.
I don't know what that is, but I hope it was told by Ginger.
Yeah. It's a Nickelodeon animated show.
He does do a lot of animation. There's Angry Beavers and Our Real Monsters and
all
like
in
that vein
Nick.
of things.
Yeah.
He was in the Batman animated series.
Yeah. He was also in a short film called Conjuring Orson.
I just have to say, he was the Condiment King in Batman the Animated Series, one of the most ludicrous villains that has ever existed, and we love the Condiment King. We stand the Condiment King.
And then I just want to note that he's in a solid amount of Christmas movies.
Does he play Santa?
No, I didn't see many Santa. I can't remember.
Captain Jack has all the Santa roles. From Racing Mars, we know that for a fact.
Yeah. He's just every year or so seems to do one.
They're money.
At least one.
It's money. So he has done everything, right? He's been comedic, dramatic, whatever the case may be. He has done it all. He's been in Chips. Remember Chips? He was in Benson to highlight a moment of comedy prowess. It Takes Two. Fame. Remember Fame? We've talked about Fame on this podcast before because of Kylan. Scarecrow and Mrs. King, which relates to Babylon 5, because that's the series that Bruce Boxleitner was doing before this, and it's one of the reasons that he was a good candidate for the show, because he had a lot of clout on television, not just because of Tron. He also did the Mike Hammer series, which has ties to this as well, because they often cast actors from that. He did Fatal Attraction, as you said, but he was the voice of the father in Dinosaurs, the sitcom about animatronic dinosaurs that has a very infamous ending because it got cancelled, and it ends with the Ice Age coming and the idea that they all die, the entire family. But he was the voice of that. He was in the It's Gary Shandling show in several episodes. He was the sheriff in Arachnophobia. Oh yeah, but he was in not necessarily the News, which I feel is an American adaptation of not the 9 o'clock news, the English show, but I don't know that for a fact, so don't get up my ass. But he was in a Mel Brooks thing. It was Life Stinks. He's done a whole lot, but
he's was active up until a few years ago, so we don't know if he's finally retired or just hasn't gotten a gig in a little bit.
You really expect me to go back to my client with nothing?
Absolutely not. Here. You can have this. I find it very useful in times of great stress. Go ahead. It was a gift to me from a friend, so now I'm giving it to you. With a few minor modifications.
I'm an idiot. I'm a loser. No one likes me. My mommy dresses me funny.
I'm pretty sure I saw that this guy was in Desperate Housewives.
He was in an episode of Desperate Housewives, as you should have guessed. He was also in Honey, We Shrunk Ourselves, which is the Honey, We Shrunk movie I've seen the most out of all of them. It was always on TV. It was always on TV. But here's one that I am deeply fascinated by. He was in most episodes of the show called Nick Freno, which I've never heard of before, right? But the premise is interesting, right? It's about an aspiring actor who, while waiting for his big break, is met expenses as a substitute teacher at a high school. So he's an actor, he has to be a teacher. But the thing that's so interesting about this series is this actor is in most of it. He's in about half of it. And there's other people of note in the show, like Portia de Rossi was in this right before Arrested Development. But the lead man himself is in nothing else. It's not like he wrote this show. It's not like he's in anything else of note. He's in like 4 things, and the big thing is this show is the lead guy and nothing else. And one of the leading directors of this is Marcy from Married with Children. So there you are. Now, there was so much else that he had going on, but did you find any interesting pieces of trivia, anything of note of his life outside of the career?
No, I didn't do a deep dive. I'll admit I didn't do a deep dive.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm gobsmacked. How could you? How could you not do a deep dive on one of the movie people? Because there's some interesting little tidbits. He's a golfer.
Oh yeah, like I read his IMDb trivia, which is where I got the juggling thing from.
But you didn't mention that he's terrified of bugs.
No, I didn't.
And you didn't mention that he has lost some weight. So it is a thing of he started his career as the big fat guy, right? And over the course of time, he's tried to lose the weight and have a bit more of a healthy image. So he's done infomercials for fitness things, including orthopedic shoes and so on and so on. So he's done a bit of a turnaround when it comes to that. Now, I don't know how drastically so, but he's tried to not make his career what this movie was very much playing into, of being the heavy-set guy who's a bit of a lecherous creep. Instead, he's been playing a lot more authoritative roles like judges, doctors, lawyers, things like that, but not in the same way as he was here. And I'm just glad to see that. And he has a wife, he has a son, and from what little I could gather online, it does seem like he's retired from film and television, but does some theater things here and there and advertisements as well. But that is our discussion on the River of Souls. What would you rate this on a scale of yum being bad and yum yum being good?
I end up with a yum.
Ooh, yum.
I was walking in, going to give it a yum yum. I had a great time.
Yeah, like
big laughs had. I was just so
it's just not
on board.
Good. It's
for
not bad.
This. But then I talk about it. And I don't really have much to say about it. And then I'm talking to you, and it's clear you don't want to talk about it. Like, you've been giving me these looks, you're not really responding because I don't
have anything to say. I'm sorry.
That's the struggle of the Babylon 5 movies, maybe twice as long as an episode, but they have less to say.
And a bunch of the stuff that we had to say was talking about it in comparison with the show.
Which is, it's there to do that by design as well. I give this a yum.
Ooh, yum.
Are you at least wanting to hear what the next episode is about?
Yes.
On the series finale of Babylon 5.
Episode 22 of Season 5, the finale of the series.
I'm ready to watch it, but I'm not ready to say goodbye.
Well, we won't because we've still got movies and Lost Tales.
Yeah, but
I know. The show itself. It is Sleeping in Light. And the DVD description goes as such. This is JMS's final time penning a description for an episode on the DVDs. And this is what he had to say. The end was prophesized and inevitable. Yet there's just enough time for an aging Sheridan to meet with friends who helped create the future, and for a final visit to the station before it's decommissioned. Sleeping in Light.
Thank you for listening.
Thank you for listening and following us around the place. And if you haven't been following us on social media, what a mistake that is.
We make it easy. All the links are in the description. And if you want to make it harder on yourself, you can go to your social media of choice and search yumyumpod or yumyumpodcast, and we'll be right at the top of that list.
as well as our email address is included in the description, yumyumpod@gmail.com. If you want to contact us directly, ask us any questions, let us know your thoughts and opinions on the things we've discussed here or the movie itself or episodes previously. And you should make sure to rate and review us on whatever podcast hosting site allows you to do so. Subscribe to us, follow us, make sure you're staying in the vein of what we're doing here. Don't miss out. You don't want to miss out on our next discussion. Of course you wouldn't. That would be so dumb of you to do that. And of course, the way to get you to support us on the podcast financially is to say that you're dumb if you don't, but also please, please, please go over to Patreon and back us on there, Yum Yum Podcast. We have so much bonus content as well as a group Discord that you get to be a part of. But Jakar was not in.
No, but there was
movie.
lots of eating.
There was so much eating. Was it good eating? Apparently, it was yum. So that means bad. According, he said 1 yum.
He said 1 yum, but she was talking about that not real beef barbecue as if it was pretty yum.
So that is some good eating by the sounds of it. Good eating to you, Rachel.
Good eating to you.